You're live on the Junius Maltby channel, the extemporaneous ramblings of a madman broadcasting live and unscripted here from my bunker. Today's going to be a fun discussion because it's just one of those, we got the coins out, we got some precious metals, some numismatic history, good monetary discussion, and it was born out of just some ideas I was thinking about that kind of go back to the core of this channel, the origins, when it first started. Some of those early topics that we would discuss and touch on, and are really, it's kind of like the foundations, I would call it, of the ideology of precious metals, the ideology of saving in precious metals and stacking, however you want to term it, whatever you want to call it. And I was watching I guess you could call him a mentor the other day, Peter Schiff. I like to tune into his discussions oftentimes. And it just reminded me his passion that I years ago would also share and still do, but what kind of drove me in this direction. And it was the idea of precious metals being something that preserves and stores your labor, your wealth, over time. And I've brought that up time and time again. I've given you guys analogies and regarding it, touching on it over the last decade when we talk about this stuff. And it just kind of spurned that idea again, and I wanted to talk about it again. I wanted to resurrect with all of you the ideas of storage of labor, preservation of labor, wealth preservation over time. Because a lot of times people criticize it and say, oh, you didn't make X amount of gains. Did it go out? What percentage did you gain? You'll hear, and there was a very disrespectful moderator when it came to Peter Schiff talking about precious metals versus Bitcoin the other day on a program. He posted it on his channel, Peter Schiff. You can go watch it there. But the moderator was just obviously ignorant. I mean, honestly, he was a very ignorant street creature, just not articulate. No real ability to translate his thoughts into what I would consider an articulate delivery of speech in which the receiving party could compute his words and formulate some illustration of what his idea might have been or how he was trying to communicate. I mean, the guy was an idiot. Not only that, he braids his hair and bleaches it. It was just disgusting. It looked like something that walked off out of a Star Wars cantina. This guy, honestly, he looked like he should have a droid attached to his hip, and he, works at a Mos Eisley. For my Star Wars fans, all of you guys are going to get that. I haven't checked my mail. I will, Justin. I have not been out to the mailboxes in a while, but I'll get to it. I appreciate the book, my friend. Now, where was I going? Okay, so the moderator was disrespectful, and he was really attacking the idea of gold not making these huge gains and how much money you were. He was just very disrespectful about the performance of gold as it relates to things like Bitcoin or other, explosive, get rich quick, rapid rises and whatever. And I'm not saying that that's all Bitcoin is. I'm just saying the disrespect for something that's been around for 65 centuries as far as human transactions and a storage of money. You got to have a little bit more honor, a little bit more respect. And just his ignorance was pretty much put on full display and broadcast when he was speaking the way he was towards Peter Schiff. Now, that's not the reason, that's not the point of today's video. I just wanted to bring that up. And if you get a chance to see it, go for it. Real quick, since I saw Mimaru in the chat, I wanted to just say thank you, Mimaru, for being such a wonderful channel member. I got your Christmas gift, and I just got to say I appreciate it. Mrs. Maltby got hers, very much appreciate it. And in case you guys are wondering, this beautiful, I've never seen anything like it. This incredible gift, which I am absolutely grateful for. This amazing coin. This is I don't think I have a 5-ounce coin. This is the largest coin that I officially have now. I've got bars and ingots and stuff, but I've never had a actual special edition or a 5-ounce strike. And this came from my favorite Canadian grandmother, Mimaru. I kind of pretend she's my grandmother too sometimes. She's like my Canadian grandma. This is coin 1680, and it's what we're going to talk about. I used this as kind of like the centerpiece for today's display because it's such a beautiful coin. It's the butterfly migration. I believe this represents the monarch butterflies, which I grew up seeing as a kid. And I used to go to some of the monarch butterfly locations where they would migrate through. And I think that might be what this is showing here. It's a 5-ounce silver. It's from the Mexican Mint, Mexico Mint. There you can see it. I love the Mexican Mint mark. And everyone knows I love Mexican silver. And it's all in Spanish too. 999 plata pura, 39 silver. Kitty. Okay, just bring it over here. I got a kitty bringing me a gift. She's demanding that she drop it at my feet. Come here. Yeah. Yes, you can be silent, but just bring it over here and put it down and then be done with all the noises. Raven. Be done. Be done, Raven. Disruptive little kitty. 96th anniversary convention of the American Numismatic Association. That's what this coin was presented for. And what's really cool is check out the back. Look at this. Estados Unidos Mexicanos. Giant proof-like sheen Mexican silver. I mean, just awesome. Incredible. Beautiful, thick 5-ounce, 3.9 fine. Yeah, just a wonderful coin. Thank you, Mimura. I love it. Raven, you need to knock it off. It's out of control. Mrs. Maltby, get your kitty. She's trying to bring you a present. She's at the door with it. She's trying to bring Mrs. Maltby a kitty, or a little toy that she has. Sorry, she's a massive kitty disruption. Let's get now. We've looked at some silver, beautiful silver. I've got stuff from the Mexican Mint dating all the way back, essentially to the beginning, to when it was founded. You know, South American silver's always done something for me. I've always talked about that with you guys. And speaking of South America, you know, I know this is a little far removed, but I've got some money from Mrs. Maltby. Actually found this in some of her family's old belongings. This Banco Central de la República Argentina, 1,000 peso note. I mean, it looks like trash. There might even be some Argentinian feces on this thing. I mean, this is the full representation, the hideousness of this wrinkled, worthless banknote, covered in grime and filth and who knows what. That's not worth anything. This empty paper, this garbage. This epitomizes to me the leper currencies. There's, to me, zero difference. There's no difference between this and this. There's just no difference between U.S. Federal Reserve notes and this 1,000 Argentinian note. Or, you know, recently I shared this with you guys when I got this, and we had a discussion on the million bolivars note. Remember this? Do you remember this discussion? We talked about the collapse of their economy and the inflation, the hyperinflation that Venezuela has been experiencing. And then sure enough, I showed you guys their old money, what used to be 5 bolivars here, essentially close to an ounce of silver. This beautiful silver coin, beautiful 5 bolivar coin, the purchasing power that this held back in the day. And now, I mean, they've eroded their currency, of course, through the same acts, the same socialism, the same garbage that America is going through now. We'll learn the lesson the hard way. Million bolivar notes they had to come out with because the currency was becoming worthless over time. And it's the same with all these different notes. And I've got piles of fiat. I've showed you guys. I've got piles and piles and piles of dead notes. I mean, you can see them all over the world. I've got piles back there behind all of this. And you know, this is fiat. This is what the United States does. This is what Europe does. This is what the Bank of England puts out. It's all the same garbage. It's all the same trash. It's all worthless. It's all just, it's always going down. It's always losing value. You know that. I know that. Paper, fiat, loses value. It's not backed by anything. You can't store your wealth there. You can work and earn it, but when you do, the minute you get it, It's like driving a brand new car off the lot. It's worth less every single day. Your currency is worth less every single day. It's not the case with metals. You know, if people had over time would place their wealth or earn their wealth and then transfer it into metals, over time it maintains its value. We know that because we've looked at history. We've talked about it. This is the ultimate preservation of dynastic wealth over time. This is how you do it. You know, if a person had worked back in, what year is it, 1912? 1912 and earned themselves this half sovereign, guess what? It didn't lose its ability to purchase goods and services. It didn't. It maintained it for over 100 years. To this day. To this day, it has strength and ability to acquire goods and services. That's not the case for all this stuff here. And none of these are even 100 years old, all these crap notes. And I've got more back there. And they're just dead. And it's amazing to see the people who continue to have this apologist attitude towards the U.S. dollar, this forgiving attitude, this expectation that it's going to always be there, and that it's somehow a safe place to even have any exposure or any of your wealth whatsoever when it's constantly on fire. I just posted a link today in the community tab. Again, it's the same thing. 40-year highs inflation, worst inflation, you know, and I believe it's the worst inflation, not only in my lifetime, but in American history. If you look at the actual inflation numbers compared to the past and how they're measured, this is the worst inflation in United States history. So that means the currency is losing its value every single day at a rate that's never even been touched on before in any generation in the United States. And I think it's happening everywhere also. I think it's happening in Canada. I mean, here's a perfect example right here. Thank you, Mimaru. But here's a 1965 silver Canadian dollar. And this was once their sound money. I mean, they at least had some type of an anchor. And you can see what's happening to their economy up in Canada. The inflation rate's there, what's taking place. Now, the thing is, gold and silver are different from other things. They're kind of in a different category. I know. So what happened to Raven? Did you find her?
She's right here.
Yeah, she was trying to bring you that pink little elephant.
Well, Billy is tearing my office apart. Leave him out here.
All right.
Sorry.
Let the kitties do their things. It's difficult with gold and silver. You know, it happens every time there's a conversation or a debate or people are up on a stage, similar to what happened to Peter Schiff the other day. There's always this I think, artificial connection made where people rope it into everything as like investments or some type of a speculation category. Look, it's not going to give you a dividend. It doesn't write you a check. You're not investing in a company. You're not investing in a new growth sector or some burgeoning new technology or idea. And it shouldn't even be viewed that way because in the perfect world, gold and silver are just the bedrock. They're money. That's it. There's nothing else. There is no currency. There is no fiat. You know, if there was notes, they would represent a specific weight and purity of a specific metal. Similar to even Peter Schiff agreed, you guys heard it the other night, just like there could be a blockchain. There could be a blockchain technology, a unit of exchange or account that is digital code, irrefutable, able to be transacted with, that was backed one-to-one for a specific weight and purity of gold or silver. He agreed that would be doable. That would be manageable. This stuff, you know, I can't believe there's people that will actually own fiat, but they frown upon other things that are limited or scarce. And this is, to me, this is worse than digital. This is garbage. I mean, the fiat paper is just absolute. It's a joke. It's a joke. It epitomizes government bureaucracy, ineptitude, malfeasance, theft, all of that, corruption. Now, in a perfect world, I'll get back to my point here. That gold and silver they would be the money. They would be the benchmark that you measure other things. So you wouldn't have to compare, you know, gold to the S&P, even though gold beat the S&P since, I believe it was 2000 till now. It's done better. because the S&P would represent, it would be valued in gold. If the currency, if the money that you and I were transacting with all over the place, we wouldn't have to worry about inflation or devaluation and debasement and purchasing power. Those conversations wouldn't take place. It wouldn't exist because gold and silver would be circulating. They would be in all the vaults of the banks. There would be an exchange rate between specific weights and purity of gold and silver for a particular other currency type, whether it's a digital or whether it's the native fiat. If you had competitions in currencies, it didn't matter. If gold and silver backed and anchored these currencies, we would be then free of the ineptitude of government. We would be immune to governments inflating currencies and destroying our purchasing power that we work for. Because these are the ultimate storage of wealth and labor. And let me tell you why that is. It's been this way since, I've got some Roman coins back there. We've got some 1681 8 reals here, another 8 reals here from 1761. We've got a nice little span of coin here. And we've got this right here, 1601 Christian Brothers taller. Some very old silver indeed. Probably one of the most exquisite ancient silver coins, or very old medieval silver coins that I own. Renaissance, this is pretty old, 1600, not medieval, you know what I mean. What we call it, Age of Enlightenment, almost on the verge of the Age of Enlightenment. Now these were storage of wealth. People worked, they earned. I mean, for thousands of years, this is about the size of a coin that would represent a day's labor. I've talked about this. This is an old silver mercantile, right? Obviously, this wasn't a day's labor then, but in ancient Rome, ancient Greece, about this much silver would be about a day's worth of work, day's worth of labor. For years, people would buy and work, and even in the United States, the founders knew this, gold and silver. You would earn your wealth and store it at the bank. Inflation rates were obviously not that bad because it was linked to this stuff. It was anchoring it. It was holding back the erosion and the theft of government. It was protecting people's wealth from government oversight, oversight. It was protecting your wealth. And gold and silver have done that again. 65 centuries, 70 centuries, like 6,500 or 7,000 years, depending how you look at it. When you get paid your fiat and you go exchange your leper notes and your leper currencies for some silver, and you take that silver and you store it away and you lock it away, that's your labor. It's a way to take your labor, which is pretty ethereal. I mean, think about it. Here's your work out here. You're out working, doing what you do now. Whether you're a welder, or a logger, a plumber, a bookkeeper, whether you do customer support or customer service, a waiter or a waitress, a brick mason. When you're out there working, how do you think of that? You're lending your time. This is how I'll put it. Because, I've listened to a few interviews in my day. And one of the common things I've picked up on when I listened to various extremely successful or wealthy people, especially billionaires, they're often asked, what do they value the most? What do they value? What's valuable to them? You want to know what one of the most common things I recall these guys would refer to? You think it's gold? You think it's Lamborghinis? What do you think it is? You know what they value the most? Their most valuable and coveted resource. It's dwindling. It's always going away. It's vanishing by the day. It's deflationary. There's less of it every second that ticks by. It's time. Their time. Their time. Their leisure time. Their time. Doing what they want with their time. So when you're working, what is work? Work. Is it caloric output? Is it moving an object from one point to another, the energy required? This is work, picking up this 5-ounce coin and holding it. That takes work. I'm burning calories. This is a heavy chunk of silver here, ladies and gentlemen. Moving it from one point to another is work. I'm exerting force upon it, energy, to transfer and move this coin. But I'm not being paid for it. I'm not earning anything. It's work. It's work, but no one's paying me to hold this or move this 5-ounce coin of silver. No. So it's different than that. When you think work, when you think of labor, It's time. People are paying you for your time. Work and labor is you lending yourself. You're selling yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, you are a commodity. You are a product. Your work and your labor is a marketable commodity, and you're selling it to whoever's paying you for your time to be there. You're not lending them your time. You're giving your time in exchange for payment. If you're at work right now, or you went to work yesterday, or you work, you're most likely being given fiat for your time. You're selling your time, you're selling yourself for fiat. When inflation takes place, the government is now saying your time is worth less. Your labor is worth less than it was when you did it. If you saved your wealth, you saved all your labor, if every time you were paid to work, you took your fiat and you just took it home and put it away, as inflation erodes the value and the purchasing power, the goods and services that notes can acquire, your labor becomes worthless. Every single day. It's eroding, it's being debased. They're devaluing your labor. They're inflating your labor. You're getting less. Unless, of course, you transferred it into gold or silver over time and held it there. You're not trying to get some significant gains. You're just trying not to lose, because these resist inflation. We know that because we've had discussions on this. The costs of getting this stuff out of the ground, the fuel, the labor, the efforts. It hasn't caught up yet, obviously, for this year. But overall, you look at a course of several decades. I've done the videos. I've showed you the charts. Gold and silver are quite successful. They're quite well. The chart for gold right now is pretty freaking amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful chart. You don't have to worry about it. All right? Don't worry about gold bears. All you gold bears out there, don't have to worry. It's going to take care of itself. It's going to be fine. I want to talk more again about what we're talking about here is labor, the idea of labor and work and storage of labor, storage of wealth. That's what this is. That's what I'm getting at here. You're working, right? You're storing your labor. When you transfer your wealth into these coins over here, these little units of account, these units of exchange, these pieces of silver, as you acquire them and store your wealth in coin and in bullion, and in bars, you're insulating it, you're protecting it, you're locking it up over time. Remember, I've always said this is wealth preservation over time. It's a storage of wealth. That's what Peter Schiff's point was. Look, you're not trying to make money in gold and silver. You're just trying not to lose. You've already got money. You've got wealth. You've got fiat. Transfer that fiat into metal, and then you've locked your wealth up. You've encapsulated your wealth into this to be unleashed later on. Within this 5-ounce coin here, which was a gift, by the way, thank you very much, is locked away wealth. Time, work, energy, effort. And that's the incredible thing about silver and gold is they take a lot of that time, effort, and work to even create, to get to this finished point. There's a tremendous amount. I mean, this silver had to be mined somewhere down here in Mexico, turned into ore. The ore then shipped to an assay's office and purified and made into either bars or the blankets. And then those blankets were at the Mexico Mint and then struck by finely crafted dyes. And once the blanket was struck, it had to be sent off and encapsulated and sold. Most likely for more than its bullion weight. I would almost assure you that, absolutely. And that's why there's those seigniorage charges. But we do know that it takes roughly nowadays, today, about $19 or so to get 1 ounce of silver out of the ground. So it would take roughly $100 just to get this amount of silver out of the ground. Just to mine 5 ounces of silver today, this would take about $100 with all the equipment and all the machines and all the mechanical devices and the leases and the environmental reparations, the all-inclusive costs for each ounce. The all-in sustaining costs per ounce sold take about $100 to get this silver out of the ground. And that's wealth. That's labor stored away. Those mines stored it away. And that's how the world used to work. They would pay people. Throughout history, you would be paid in silver and in gold. They were transferring that storage of labor, that storage of time, that's what it is. I almost don't even want to call these storage of wealth or labor anymore. It's a storage of time, because you're lending your time, you're selling your time, you're giving your time to be compensated for to your employer. When you're working, it's time. Think of that for a second. If billionaires say that the most valuable thing that they have is time, and if time is the most valuable resource and asset to them, this chunk of silver is an encapsulation of time, people's time. And as a matter of fact, this silver is time that was stored away from 1681. Men died in Potosi on this mountain. Men died to create this silver, to ship this silver. Death, time, labor. Does that make sense to anybody? Am I the only one that, or you guys get this, my point here, what I'm trying to say? Across all cultures and times, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter at all. What part of the human timeline you exist in, this is all present. Silver, present throughout it. You guys get the point. This is a storage of time. You're locking your time up in coinage. Now, if you're going to put your time someplace, if time is the most valuable resource, the most valuable asset, and you're going to store your time, here you have a chunk of time. You can't even see it's invisible, it's in air. Within my hand is time, right? I'm holding your time. Sam Black, I'm going to use you as an example, my friend. I've got a chunk of Sam Black's time here, 8 hours of his life that he'll never get back. Pay attention, Sam, we're talking about you. I've got 8 hours of Sam's life, his little workday in my hands. Would you want to transfer that into a bag of rice? Have 8 hours worth of rice? Pretty hard to transport 8 hours worth of rice. I mean, that could be what? I'm guessing maybe 200 pounds, 25 pounds, maybe for $20 or so. I don't know what kind of rice it is, basmati or Calrose rice, whatever. My point is, if you've got 8 hours of our friend's time, Sam's time here, does he want to transfer it into rice? It might keep a while. He might use it, whatever. You have to store it. It's hard to transport. Maybe it's hard to exchange that time for other goods and services he might need to acquire. Maybe he needs a haircut. He's not going to really want to bring a bag of rice to the barber. Now, what about taking that time and transferring it into bread? That's not going to keep very long. He's not going to store that as well as rice. It's going to mold. I don't know. I don't think bread's a good idea. Not even meat. I mean, that's going to spoil very quickly. Corn, maybe? I mean, what do you do when you have a chunk of time that you need to put aside to store it up, or use it later, to unleash it later, to acquire other goods or services? How do you barter your time? And time is valuable. That's what everyone values. Even the wealthiest, the most valuable thing in the world to them is their time. So we're going to take Sam's time. Sam, you're right. He says metal. Okay. Let's take 8 hours of Sam's time and store it. We'll just store it right here. And we'll just pretend this is 8 hours of Sam's time. That's quite a bit. But it depends on what silver. But we'll just say for now, sake of discussion, this big chunk of silver. Now Sam has 8 hours of time that was once, you can't see it, just invisible. Turns into a chunk of silver. There's his time, 8 hours. Now Sam can take this, he can put it in a little wooden chest someplace, like I've got back here. close it up, lock it away. He could take this 8 hours of time out of that chest in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and release it. Release it and acquire things and trade and barter with it. And that time, his time, has been transported over the course of time. Think of that. This is some pretty deep stuff. You're taking your time and you're transporting your time that you lend or receive compensation for. You're transporting your time, your spare time, or your work, your efforts, your labors, and you're transporting it into the future to unleash and acquire goods in this future. So let's say 20 years later, Sam takes this 8 hours of his day that he locked away in silver, and he takes it out of a vault. Most likely, silver's gone up in value significantly because currencies like this over here, these rotting fiats, have been debased and devalued. So now he can unleash this. It's like time travel, Sam. It's like time traveling your labor. It's like sending your labor or your time through a portal into the future to unleash later on. It's the ultimate way to store that labor reliably, because you can look at its track record and its resume, its history over time. In the last 7,000 years, people have done the same thing. It doesn't matter what part of history you find yourself in, dating back to the Lydians or the Greeks or the Romans, the Spaniards. It doesn't matter. People stored their time, the representation of their time, in metal, and then they could transport it. And reliably, if you're looking at its resume, it's done it the most successful, the longest of any commodity, any item, or any idea on Earth. Nothing holds a candle, nothing comes close. There has never been an element, there has never been an idea or a representation, an icon, a physical thing. There's never been anything that has served as a liquidity anchor, an extinguisher of debt, a representation of human effort, labor, and work, a storage of time. Nothing that's ever done it as efficiently, as perfectly, and as well as gold and silver. Nothing comes close. Nothing can, nothing will. That's something the bears don't get. The critics of gold and silver, they can't cross that mental line and comprehend or grasp this concept. The ultimate storage of wealth over time to be unleashed later. I don't know what the individual did to first earn this half sovereign in 1912. But at some point, someone worked to earn a half sovereign's worth of gold. And it was put away, it was stored. It probably was passed on to acquire other goods. Maybe it was held in a bank vault and notes were issued on it or lent on it. Maybe interest was accrued upon this gold. And over time, it's been handed on to others for an exchange of time. People have exchanged their time, their work and labor, in fiat notes to acquire this particular gold coin. But ever since the day it was issued, it has most likely represented the storage of time and labor by other individuals. And here it sits in my possession. It is now my time. This now represents my wealth, my labor. This is locked up. This is a storage of time that could be handed on. And in 100 years, somebody could find or discover this coin and use it. It'll hold in it still, locked away, preserved forever, a representation of a specific amount of human effort, time, and labor. Now ask yourself, does fiat do that? I mean, it's quite an illustrative way of putting it, how gold and silver behave, transporting time, storing time. But can this disgusting note, this wrinkled, stained, dirty, gross Argentinian note, this 1,000 pesos, is it transferring or storing anyone's time right now? Would you put your time in this, Sam Black? would you trust me? Would you store 8 hours of your life in this? Would any of you? Or would you rather store your time in something over your like this, something metallic? To me, it's a pretty clear thing there. Pretty easy decision. The storage of wealth in metal is far superior to just about anything else. I mean, nothing comes close. There's no comparison. Nothing compares. But that was the discussion I wanted to have today with all of you. The storage and preservation of wealth in precious metals, in sound money, in gold, and silver. I think it's an idea that should be fostered, should be nurtured, should be discussed and articulated. It's something that you guys can use as a way to explain this. It's as difficult as it is. It's a pretty a labyrinthian discussion. I mean, it's you kind of got to wander your way through it. It's very difficult to be able to grab someone's idea and mind and say, hey, look, this coin is time in a physical form. This is human time. This is the purchase of time. This is labor. This is work. But hopefully it gives you guys an ability to discuss that in the future and to bring that point forward and to help tell others about gold and silver. And when you're having those discussions on gold versus this or silver versus that, you can at least bring up the storage of human time and labor to be transported into the future, unleashed at another time to acquire goods and services. Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Yes?
Any time spent with you is worth more than gold.
Oh, good. That's a sweet thing to say, baby girl.
You're welcome. That's a good Valentine's Day card for any of you who...
Any time with you is worth more than gold. And you know what? This it actually even represents time with your loved ones. Because again, if you talk to people about their time, and if their time is valuable, I mean, would you rather spend your time at work, laboring away in an office, or away from your loved ones? Or would you rather spend that time with your loved ones? You know, being able to, I mean, this represents time away from loved ones. That's what work is, labor, effort, going to work, going to a job. You're being paid to spend your time someplace you'd rather not, doing things you'd most likely rather not do. I mean, I'd rather go out for a hike in the woods than clock in someplace. I'd rather spend my time. Isn't that interesting? That's the way to put it. Spending your time. I would much rather spend my time doing other things. Thank you, Bill Spencer. Thank you and Kalna. Thank you both for the super chat. So thank you very much. Very, very much appreciated for giving me your time. And Phil Subtle, thank you as well for giving me your time and for the super chat. It says, think about that too. There's just the idea when you say spend your time. You ever think of that? I've never really thought of that until today's discussion with you guys. Spending time like it's a currency, like it's a resource, a finite thing. You're actually spending it when you're going someplace and giving your time or losing it to an endeavor. When you're occupying your day with something else, you've spent your time there. It can't be gotten back. Those are precious minutes. You've heard time wasted. People sometimes have been to a movie theater or something. They watched a movie. That's 2 hours wasted. That's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. What a waste of time. Or, you get caught up in doing some errands. You get stuck in traffic and you hear something. That's what a waste of time. I could have spent my time doing something else. That's what metal is. This is your time right here. You're locked up. You can spend it later. This is not a waste of time, gold or silver. At least you have an option. You have the ability to decide what direction this goes in, what it acquires, where it goes from here. It's time. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you for lending me your time. Thank you for spending your time here on the Junius Maltby channel. I recognize that. You guys take time out of your day to be on this channel, to talk about these things, and to participate in these conversations. So thank you. Thank you for spending your time here and being part of the Junius Maltby channel. Please hit the like, hit the thumbs up button if you could. That's that little thumbs up button down there. It looks like that little thumb. Hit that up. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. Get down to the comments, debate these things, articulate it your own way, discuss it with one another. Talk about this in the comments. Go down there and share your ideas. Discuss these things, please. And share the video. Send it to others, post it to forums or sites that you discuss these things on, and share the content there. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all of you for being part of the Junius Maltby channel. Have a good day.